Here we have an example of how to solve a quadratic equation using the square root property. So you notice we have 7x squared minus 28 equals 0. And what lets us use this special property, the sort of particular part of this problem that's very helpful for us, is if you look, you notice we have an x squared term, meaning a quadratic term. We have the constant term minus 28, but there's no x term, meaning there's no coefficient times x, and that alone in this problem. Since that's missing, we can go ahead and use this lovely square root property. What we want to do in order to use the property is to isolate this x squared part as much as possible, meaning we want the part that's squared alone. Everything else gets to the other side. So to do that, what we're going to do is first go ahead and add 28 to both sides. Get the constant to the other side, just makes everything a lot easier. So go ahead and add 28. These will cancel out, giving us 0, and we end up with 7x squared equal to 28. Now before we go ahead and start trying to solve for x, again, we want the x squared part alone. And you notice this 7 still here. So before we deal with the square root property, we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 7. Those 7's cancel out, and we get x squared equal to 4. Once it looks like this, where you have something squared here, something squared equals a constant, equals a number, we can go ahead and use the square root property. And the square root property basically just tells us that we can go ahead and take the square root of both sides, but when we do, we need to throw a little something extra in there. So we are going to take the square root of both sides and recognize that the square root of x squared here is going to simplify to just x. On the other side, it's not that we just have the square root of 4, it's that we have plus or minus the square root of 4. And that plus or minus, that's the key to this whole thing. The square root property says that if you have something squared equals a number, something squared equals a constant, take the square root of both sides and make sure you put in that plus or minus. So looking at it here, we're going to end up with x equal to plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2. So the answer is not just positive 2, we actually have two answers, positive 2 and negative 2. And that's how the square root property works.